Hello,
Hey,
hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks so
How are
much.
you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you guys?
yeah,
Good.
that note. Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for
No
asking.
problem.
Please introduce yourselves and tell me a fun fact about you.
Wilson, your first.
You first? Okay. So I'm Wilson Shaner. I sing in the band. Fun fact about me. It's not super fun, but I am allergic to fresh fruits and vegetables.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes my throat swell up to eat them.
She says, "I'm
And-
sorry."
But on top of that, I am a vegetarian. So that combo doesn't work great.
Okay.
My name is Justin Burns. I play guitar in the band. Two fun facts. One, I have a twin brother. Second fun fact is the band is all in Michigan, and I just ditched them and moved to New Jersey. But we still make it work and still all play. So
We miss him dearly.
We're bitter.
Just a little bitter. Hey, my name is Riley Hupfer. I play rhythm guitar in the band. I was trying to think of a really good one, but I can't right now. So my spirit animal is a squirrel.
Okay.
Oh, that's totally true.
yeah.
You should come to our campus one day. We have a ton of squirrels, and some of them actually
Oh, you
attack
do?
you. Yeah, they attack you from the trash cans. It's a great time.
They attack?
Yeah,
Oh, those are mean squirrels.
they're very vicious. We also have turkeys
That's
and
awesome.
deer. So I don't know.
You have turkeys on campus?
Yeah.
This is a
I think
wild.
Riley would calm them down and soothe them, and they would no longer attack.
Yeah.
It's Riley's way.
Okay, so there's a question that we were asked at our freshman orientation that we've been asking everyone. If you can be any utensil in the kitchen, what would you be and why?
A spork. No, that's easy. No brainer.
Really? What would
Yeah, you can. What?
you go first, JB? What would you be?
You didn't hear me? I said spork.
A spork?
Why,
yeah, because
dude?
it's versatile. It's the most versatile utensil there is.
I have to
You can
disagree.
scoop and you can like poke and pick up. It's all in one.
But you're not the best for anything.
All right, try to top it. Just try.
I would be a garlic press because I feel like as I'd be squeezing that garlic out, I would get to smell and taste the garlic.
I'm gonna be a nice pair of tongs because even if kitchens were to disappear tomorrow, you can use me. Old people can take me and grab stuff off the floor or over there. Like,
Why just old people?
Scratch your back.
well, I'm
You can
just
scratch your
saying
back,
it's
too.
harder for old people to like, bend over to pick something up than it is your younger person
Okay.
on average.
That's pretty good.
Not in all situations,
That's altruistic of you to use yourself for the benefit of the elderly.
Yeah, I want you to use me if you can in the kitchen. Yep.
It's
Okay.
like
good.
the golf of kitchen utensils. You can play with it. Well, into old age.
That was a really fun question.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, how did you guys pick your respective instruments / decide what you wanted to do in the band?
I'll start if that's okay. I was 14. It was Christmas time, and my parents got me a guitar when I asked for a PlayStation, and I was not happy about it. I didn't want to play guitar. I didn't ask for an instrument for Christmas, and now it's one of my favorite things in the world. So, what was the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
Oh, how did you decide what you wanted to do in the band? It's kind of.
I feel like it just sort of naturally happened. Justin and I used to both like alternate between lead and rhythm parts and songs, and then at one point we realized it didn't make any sense at all. And so we, I think just naturally, one of us became lead guitar and then the other rhythm.
Yeah. For me, ideally I would be the drummer, but they won't let me do that. But the way I started playing guitar was I would go hang out with my neighbor down the road, And instead of hanging out with him, his older brother would just play guitar all the time, and I would just ditch my real friend and just go hang with his brother and watch him play guitar. And then I told my parents I wanted a guitar, and I had a habit of like being super invested into things and then just quitting 2 weeks later, so they refused to get me a guitar. But then I finally convinced them, and here we are. Still play guitar, play with a band, so it works out.
Still has a habit of getting super invested in certain things. And
Yeah, and I have an electric drum kit in the basement just in case they ever need a fill-in.
And for me, I think if I could choose, I would play guitar and sing. But you don't really need me to do that. And the show is a lot more interactive if I'm not playing guitar, because I can jump around a lot more and have both hands free, interact a lot more. So it just kind of makes sense for me to just sing. And I guess, I don't know, that also just kind of happened. I never really thought of myself as a singer. I started out playing drums, and then I played guitar, and I never even really thought I was a singer. And then when I was like end of high school, I just started singing, and they asked me to be the singer. So I was like, all right, let's do it.
Natural born.
I love seeing how people kind of like choose their instrument, or like the instrument kind of chooses you in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, yeah.
No, truly, that happened. The instrument chose me because of my mother mostly. So I owe her everything.
So my next question for you is, can you describe your sound for me in 3 words? You can each do 3 words if you want, or collective 3 words.
I'm defaulting to my buddy Willie.
I would say toaster strudel pop.
Toaster strudel pop.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys could say 3 words too.
I don't know if I can top that, but
I was gonna give 1 word and say energetic. I don't know, or yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna stick with toaster strudel pop.
Okay.
Which is energetic, and it has a lot of flavor.
Flavor, fun. Yeah, I mean, versatile, lots of flavors. Yeah. When you think about it and take it a little deeper, it makes a lot of sense.
I know.
I never really thought about it on that level, but
it's fun to see like how bands describe themselves, because like I might pick a different 3 words if somebody asked me, but it's always interesting. Like, I've gotten very strange answers to those questions. So, okay. My next question for you is, what are you currently listening to?
JB, I know you got a song that you just have on repeat all the time. That's his style.
I've been going through some weird phases lately. I just went and saw... I want to give you the 3 most all over the place. I went and saw 4 Year Strong Silverstein not too long ago. If I'm having a rough day at work, I always fall back on Knock Loose. So that's like rip your face kind of stuff. And then we saw singer-songwriter Kevin Garrett, who writes songs for Beyonce. He's been on my spin shuffle lately too. So you got a whole mix of stuff.
Nice. I've been listening to Hal Mulligan's new album, and then Between You and Me. I just discovered them recently, so I'm late to the game. And other than that, I've been listening to just like a lot of podcasts. So listen to Armchair Expert with Dak Shepard a lot. It's good. And then I listen to I've been listening to The Main, because I always listen to The Main, and I love them. And I've been listening to their podcast, too.
Nice. I was jamming The Main the other day, and then I'm a big Ben Rector fan, so I feel like I always default to him and then to a band called Bear's Den when I'm working or just sitting around and like need something in the background. And then, yeah, I feel like everything else has been just playlists all over the board and podcasts.
What do you guys do when you're not writing music? or playing music?
Who's up first?
Ye-
Me? Oh gosh. So I love spending time with my friends and family, which is tough right now. But making a lot of use of Zoom, and like the other day we were playing Code Names and Cards Against Humanity online, which is fun. When I'm not writing music or playing music, like to run, like to hike, camp. I like to read. Basketball is a big sport for me. I do the occasional Netflix binge. And I could keep going. I just do a bunch of random stuff. I feel like my day is all over the place, and I don't establish perfect routines, but I sort of thrive in that sometimes.
Nice.
Oh, there's Jax.
I write my book, so I'm writing a novel. So I spend time doing that, and then yeah, sports also, big time basketball, and that's like literally it. I don't do anything else. I spend a lot of time in this room that I'm in right now, where we have like our little demo studio. It's like writing and demoing stuff out for our next song. So I know that your question was what I do outside of that, but I spend like probably 75% of my free time doing that. So it's hard to say anything else.
Yeah, for me, I like to travel, so going on trips, seeing new places. Yeah. Big basketball guy too, so the NBA, watching sports. Yeah, going to work, I guess, and then music. That's my life.
Okay, what's the scene like there? I normally live through everyone else when they tell me about it, because where I'm from, it's sad.
Will, you're up, man. You're in the hot spot.
It's really strong in Detroit. Like, it goes hard, and there's several really good venues, like downtown Detroit and just outside of downtown Detroit. So like, we love playing Detroit, especially at Pontiac, which is where we played a Sad Summer date last year, and then we played a couple other times there. It just always goes hard. And then on the other side of the state in Grand Rapids, it's pretty good too. It's less, I would say, like pop punk driven there, but there's still a great crowd that comes out, great venues. So we're really lucky that we got, two sides of the state that both have great venues and people come out and always support. And then right in the middle of the state in Lansing, there's a couple venues that that we've played several times too, and had the opportunity to open for some cool bands there. And so yeah, we're pretty lucky with what we got going on in the Michigan scene.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
And cool Michigan bands, I would add.
Go first.
Oh, sorry.
No, go first.
Like Gold Route. We got a big list of Gold Route, Anti-Ghost, Wolves and Machines. I'm definitely forgetting some.
Blue.
The True Blue, Boys of Fall, yeah. So.
What's your favorite venue that you've played in?
Mm-hmm. That's a tough
I think the Sad Summer Fest show was...
Well, that was my favorite show, but I don't know about venue. Like, I like that venue because it always is like packed and crazy. Mm-hmm. But I would say like it's tough to not put the Intersection up there.
I was about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, in Grand Rapids.
The Chicago venue we played was awesome too. It was probably the best sound we've had.
Yeah.
And just the setup they had there was really good.
Yeah.
What's your favorite state that you've been to?
My favorite state I've been to is California.
Yeah. Ooh. North Carolina has always been one of my favorite states, I think. But California is up there too, and Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado.
So we have a question that our PR director, Grace, came up with, and I'm going to be honest, it's a question, so bear with me. Sorry. What is your opinion of releasing an artist's unreleased music after they've passed away? Should it be released or should it not?
I think that it depends on like who the artist was, because if it was me and I had or we had unreleased music and I pass away, I would want it to be released because like spent so much time and effort and put so much emotion into it that I think I would be really sad if that existed and then nobody ever heard it. So like as an artist, I would want it to be released. But I think that there can be some situations where, you know, the artist, it could have just been 1 out of 30 songs that got recorded and was potential for an album. And, you know, the artist maybe didn't want that song to be released, but then just for financial gain, somebody takes it and they're like, oh, we'll just put out everything this artist ever recorded just to make money off of it. I think there can be some situations that get a little bit dicey there of whether or not the artist would have wanted that song to come out. So I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah, I was going to say kind of what Wilson was saying about making sure it's tasteful. So if there's people who worked with the artists who know how they work and what they like or don't like, then let those people finish it off or develop it with the artist in mind and then release it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
So we've had this question compared to Kurt Cobain's journal. I'll give a little backstory. The question came about because of the Little Peep songs that kind of sound like unfinished bedroom demos. So, and then
that's what I thought you were referring to, yeah.
Yeah, and then Mac Miller's album Circles was recently released. So what we want to do is kind of start a conversation about this, becoming more and more prominent in the industry, and like one of the things that like we want to bring up more so is like maybe artist wills or what would, God forbid, happen. So it's a lot of moving parts and a lot going on because like as a fan you always want to hear more music, but at the end of the day, is it what the artist would have wanted?
I think it's a great question because there's definitely some like demos that we have right now that I certainly wouldn't want to be released because they're unfinished or, you know, they didn't live up to what we thought they would be. So we're, you know, not going to pursue those songs. So it would be weird, you know, if those came out and it's like, no, I never wanted anybody to hear this. So, I do think it should be a conversation for sure.
Yeah. Leads to my next question. If you could change one thing about the music industry as it is today, what would it be and why?
Change one thing? Oh, I would say the politics of it, because in the inner circle and connected, it can be really tough to get opportunities for, you know, just to get on big festivals or tour shows. And I mean, if you don't have the connections, even if people would want to come out and see you, it's tough to get on. So I think like making it, and I understand why it is that way because, you know, people are looking after their own companies, their own groups. It's kind of like, get my back, I got your back, and you kind of have to get in that circle. So I understand why it is that way, but if it was more open, I think a lot more artists that deserve to get discovered would get discovered and would get to play for a lot more people who want to hear and play.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment too. I figured you would say, but just being more accessible, you know, being what you would say is a smaller band right now. It's just certain areas and things are harder to break in than we would like, but that goes that way for anybody until you build up a following and a platform, and then you're looking at it from the other side. So yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Well,
JB's nodding in agreement, I think.
Yeah, what you guys said.
Yeah, because you can't just like work hard and make good music and have, you know, and make it. It's like you have to rely on a stroke of luck to come in some way in most situations. You know, it's too bad because there's so many bands out there who are really good, and the only people who find them are the ones who are like deep in it. Like I'm super deep in it, so I know all the small bands, or not all of them, but I know a lot of the small bands that you go on Spotify, they've got like 10,000 monthly listeners or something like that, or even like we've got like somewhere around 20,000 monthly listeners, and it's like that's tiny. But it's like, how are people going to find out about those bands unless you're super deep in it? You kind of have to just get lucky.
What is your opinion of streaming services like Spotify?
I wondered if that was going to come up, because I feel like that's a default answer to that last question for a lot of people too, is the lack of album sales now and everything. I don't know. I find a lot of my music and new music through streaming services, and I still will purchase albums, and I notice people still purchasing our albums quite a bit too, which is cool that people still support that. But I think there's pros and cons from a financial standpoint of streaming and value and what you get back as an artist. But at the same time, it creates a platform for you to be discovered by so many people. So I really believe in that, because I've used it personally, and I've seen people find us through those avenues and playlists and your weekly whatever it is, your weekly 25 songs or whatever on rotation. So
I will say the most positive part about it is those playlists, that if you can get on the right curated playlist, it can be really big for artists and really good exposure. So, and that way it can help a lot if you get on the right platform within those streaming services.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pros and cons, and from like the accessibility part that I was talking about, like Spotify found a way to make it so that anybody can get your music, so the accessibility is there. But then it just comes to the point of there's so much music on there that there's a lot of noise, and it's hard to break through and get people to find you. So yeah, like JB said, getting on one of those playlists is huge, to get on like an editorial playlist. And there's a couple big ones in our genre that we sort of got lucky to get on a couple times. But you're really, it's a couple people who are curating those playlists. So if those couple people don't like your sound, then you're kind of out of luck for getting on those editorial playlists. So it's, they're not determined by the masses of who's going to get on there. It's just a few people. So yeah, that makes it difficult. But I do really love algorithmic playlists, or like the Discover Weekly and your daily mix. Those are, I think that whatever their algorithm is, I think it works super well, because when I'm listening to like my Discover Weekly or my daily mix, it's always stuff or almost always stuff that I want to hear, and I've discovered a lot of artists through that. So I think that Spotify is doing as good of a job as can be done with a platform like a streaming service like that. And I think the other ones are good, but they're a step behind Spotify.
Yeah, I know from at least like my own purposes, I use Spotify all the time, that like it's great for exposure. I find a lot of the bands I listen to through Spotify, and like I've gotten to talk to people across the world from doing this, so it's kind of crazy to see like how that works. But at the same time, I feel like Spotify's also changed how people listen to music, in the sense that like it's now all about playlists, not always about albums, which kind of sucks, because like I like to listen to an album all the way through, and I feel like there's this like single, everything has to be a single. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep. I think,
and it feels that way for artists too. I think in terms of releasing stuff, it's changed the way you look at releasing an album, for sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Will. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're exactly. It takes away some of the motivation to just go record like 11 songs, because you could just put one out and then get on one of those playlists and get more streams than a whole album if you just have that one song. So I think the key is to write an album where you've got, 10, 12 great songs, and then get one or two of those on those playlists. And then when people find you, they can go to your page and listen to the whole album. But it's hard to make that investment to spend the money to record a full album because it's expensive. So I think that's why a lot of people are just switching to, let's do one or two or three songs.
Can you tell me the story behind your album and how it came to be?
Riley, go for it.
Oh no, I'm gonna let you take this one, man. You're a better historian on this one.
Well, the story behind it. So I guess let's take it back just a little. We so we found a producer, Seth Henderson, and he produced Knuckle Puck and Real Friends, like all their early stuff and all of Knuckle Puck's stuff. So we really liked his sound that that we were hearing of his guitar tones and just everything, the overall vibe. So we hit him up, and when we recorded an EP with him called Outgrown in 2018, and then when that came out, personally, I felt like we could have done better. Like I love that EP, and I think there's some good stuff on it, but I just remember thinking like we could have done better. Like we could have had more song options, because we went into that with 5 song options and we recorded 5 songs. So we basically were like, here's what we got, let's record it. But after we were done, I remember thinking, what if we had written a ton more songs and had way more options to choose from, and then just picked the best of the best and only recorded those, and put more effort into each song. And then just that started us with the writing process, and we changed the way that we write music at that time, because we used to just do all of us in a room together, like, let's go, here's an idea, let's try to all write our parts at the same time and just play it. And it was so chaotic, and it's not, for at least for us, it could work great for other people, but for us it was not conducive to creating songs that made sense and that were catchy, and getting enough songs quick enough, because we were taking like a year to write friggin' 2 songs. So then we started demoing songs as we were writing them. So we were like recording them at my house while we were writing them, and it made it so much easier to just put a lot of ideas down, get them, the bass ideas recorded, and listen to what they would sound like after they're recorded. And then you can easily change vocals, you can add guitar parts and layer things, and generate more ideas. So we had like 20, I think over 20 song options, and we were way more prepared to go in for Cherry. But I think what we were looking for is, we wanted something that sounded fun, that sounded different, but was also familiar enough that people would be drawn to it right away. Because of some of the things we're talking about, how accessible, how many options there are on Spotify and streaming services, we knew it needed to be something that was engaging and would catch people right away. So that was kind of what we were looking for, is catchiness and differentiation, while also kind of giving a nod to like the early days of the early 2000s pop punk. So while we were starting to write, I hit up Derek from State Champs and asked him, would you want to be a part of this? And he was like, for sure, let's do it. So we brought him in to co-produce it with Seth, and he was there with us for most of the time in the studio, and it was a blast. So we were just there for like a month, just living, writing and recording music. It was like the best time of our lives.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's a really good timeline. And that's why I asked Wilson to say it, because he'd get all the details correct, and I'd probably miss one or two. But no, we spent about 4 weeks with Seth in Indiana, and Derek was there for a good majority. And yeah, it was probably the best 4 weeks of my life. It was a blast. I think we spent 1 week of that staying at an America's Best hotel, which it's not the best hotel chain in America. It's lower on the total poll.
Yeah.
But we just had a blast throughout the whole thing, and I think really a big part of that was changing the songwriting process. And the room Wilson is sitting in right now, which wasn't his basement, he just moved it upstairs, the studio.
Yeah.
There were a lot of hours and nights and weekends and time spent in there, and that was a lot of fun too. That's as much as I love playing on stage, the writing process throughout all of that is really, really a blast.
Yeah, I think the upfront work made it what it was, basically.
What is your favorite part of a song that you've written? It can be a lyric, a guitar part, drum cadence, anything.
I think... Oh.
I always fall to Undone. Personally, I've kind of talked about this before, and we do our own little podcast, but it's the one song that I had the biggest contribution for. And being in New Jersey, it was a weekend I flew home to help write, and Wilson and I, he had like an idea, and then we just we stepped in there and just like boom, within an hour we had like the full structure, and then the rest of the guys came later, and then we worked on lyrics, and it was one of those guys can speak to different experiences, but for me it was like the fastest song we've ever written that we didn't really change anything once we went to the studio. And so the whole process was like the easiest, like, and the most happy I've been with the output for how easy it went. So, and that's the whole song, lyrics, drums, guitars, like the tone we were going for. The output was exactly what I envisioned initially.
Yeah, for me, the ending of Undone, they let me just experiment with. I like doing like spacey, melodic guitar type stuff. That's actually, if you could put me in like an indie folk Angels and Airwaves-ish type situation, I love that kind of stuff. And so we did a sort of some of that at the end of Undone, and there's some really cool stuff that Wilson did vocally, and so I love that. And then a song that we have coming out very, very soon, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point in this. I really liked writing that one too.
I'd say for me, it's probably the lyrics to our song "I Was Somebody," because I think that it's just like it's probably some of the most honest stuff I've written lyrically, and just like it's cool to see people connect to that because it's like a pretty real feeling and like real thoughts. So it's good to know that other people feel that way too sometimes. So I'm kind of happy with how that turned out and that other people could connect to that.
I love the connectivity in music. I kind of feel like anyone can listen to a different part of a song and find some way to relate to it. It's kind of special. I don't know. So,
yeah, no, it really is. Like when you get the goosebumps, that's when you know a song is really, really good.
So you mentioned a new song. Can you tell me a bit about it?
Okay.
It almost made Cherry. It almost made the album. So we wrote this during the whole process for writing Cherry, and I don't know, how would you describe it, Riley?
It's probably, with I Was Somebody, it's one of the sadder, more melancholy songs we've written. And we recorded it with Nick Diener at, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Wondar Studios. Wondar, I think is how it's said.
I don't even know.
In Michigan, and he's formerly of the Swellers. And it has some banjo that he laid down in there. It's melodic. It started as an acoustic song, and it developed. It's acoustic driven, but there's a lot of other elements. There's real cello in there that somebody tracked and did, and so it's different for us. But I really love it, and I've always loved this song. And it's going to be called Ghost.
Okay. You can collaborate with any artist, dead or alive. Who would it be and why?
John Bellion. John Bellion does some. I remember when Wilson showed me John Bellion for the first time in his living room, and I was just like mind blown. And I feel like there's not many of those artist experiences. Like I could, like Angels and Airwaves, Motion City. Like there's certain bands that you listen to the first time, you're like, well, I've never heard this. And John Bellion, I think, is the most recent one. So I would say John Bellion.
Go ahead, Will.
I would say Post Malone. Because he always writes the catchiest hooks.
He does.
That's true.
He does.
And I think Post Malone is that for me, honestly, what you just said about John Bellion, where when I first heard Post Malone, I was like, this is different.
This is tough for me, but I think I would pick Ben Rector just because from watching him live and watching all the stuff he does on social media, I feel like him and his group are some of the most talented musicians I've ever seen. And he would teach me how to play the piano.
I could teach you how to play the piano.
That's true. That's true. I'm not saying you're not Ben Rector level, man.
I'm not Ben Rector level, that's for sure, but I could still teach you something.
What's the weirdest or funniest question you've ever been asked in an interview before? And then I'm going to ask you to answer it. So.
Oh no.
Oh. Do interviews where I was interviewing Riley count?
Sure.
Oh, do I have to say it?
No, you don't have to, but
I'll say it. All right. Wilson asked
I don't even know what
the
this is going to be.
strangest place I'd ever went number 2. Taking a deuce. And the answer, it's a long-winded response, so I don't know if I need to go through this whole story. Okay, yeah, I'll save you, but it's in Iceland next to a rock hill near a car where an Icelandic Chuck Norris, as we described him, was going to lead us over a mountain pass that was closed due to snow. And I had to go, and there was nowhere to go, so I went next to a big pile of gravel. And the wind was like 25-mile-per-hour wind, so you can take it from there.
oh my God.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's content.
Okay.
JD?
I don't think I have anything comparable to that, to be honest.
No,
It would do his story an injustice to even try to
same.
respond.
I didn't fly with that.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Oh,
It was
it
good.
was a really fun question to answer, but it's definitely, it's weird to most people, I bet.
How was that a question that Will asked? I guess that's a good question.
If you listen to the podcast, we ask each other some strange questions and have some strange and fun responses. But
Yeah, JD, you don't listen to our podcast?
No, I do. I just don't remember this again.
JB never listens.
There's a running joke that they talk a lot of smack about me and say, well, he doesn't listen anyways. But they know I listen every time. Yet they continually give me a hard time. But I don't remember this one. I don't know why.
Have to go back.
Can we plug the podcast?
I will.
What's the name?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the Lifesavers podcast.
Okay. On all streaming platforms or Anchor?
It's on Spotify, it's on SoundCloud, it's on Apple Podcasts. I think just those 3.
I think those 3, yep.
We have a lot of fun.
You can tell.
We do.
Oh, what's your favorite concert that you've been to?
I love so many concerts I've been to. It's really hard to pick, but
Do you want to do
I
top
recently
3?
went to an Angels. Yeah, let's do top 3.
Okay.
Recently went to an Angels and Airwaves concert, and that's my favorite band of all time, and I haven't seen them in forever. So that's way up there. I went to a Ben Rector concert. I've been talking about him a lot. I'm trying not to, but and that Wilson, I think you might have been at that one with me.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, it was just really cool what he did with streaming video during the concert and tying it into his songs and the themes was really awesome. And then I saw the main, it was like the main Motion City Mayday Parade or something like that at the intersection. And that show was really, really cool.
For me, I would say Motion City soundtrack. This was probably 5 years ago. It was right before it was like the week before I moved to New Jersey. They played Commit This to Memory front to back. And that was one of my favorite albums ever. And then I had a streak of seeing Balance and Composure. And seeing them out on the East Coast was a lot of fun down in Philly.
Got one more, Jimmy. Sorry.
Those are my top two. I don't know.
Top two's fine.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm just gonna do top one because this stands above all.
Okay.
In like 2008 or something like that, I saw Boys Like Girls, and it was so good.
I'm so jealous.
And it was like pouring rain, and it was an outside concert, and I just lost my mind. And
They played Thunder.
They did. They played Thunder, and it was like pouring rain.
There was real thunder going on, man.
Yeah.
My second to last question for you is, what is your favorite album in your personal collection?
I'll start, guys. Favorite album of all time in personal collection, We Don't Need to Whisper by Angels and Airwaves. Just, that was when I was really getting into playing guitar and learning songs, covering songs for the first time, and just figuring out how to be a musician. And so that was like the ultimate inspiration for me. And it was a really good album. Still is.
Yeah. I'm going to copy Riley. And that's kind of how we became friends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Full circle.
I've got two that I'm going to throw out there. Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, Blink-182.
Yeah.
Take This to Your Grave, Fall Out Boy. Those two, just that's what roped me into this world. So.
Love that. And my last question for you is, what are your goals for 2020?
We would have said a couple different things before the situation started, but I think put out a few good singles, do some touring as much as we can. We've got some dates that we haven't announced that we do have booked, that hopefully we can still do. We'll just have to see where things go. You guys have any others?
Yeah, no, I'll add on to that. So we do have studio time. We have 2 more songs coming out over the next, this one coming up with Ghost, and then another one after that at some point. And then we have some studio time in May where we're going to go record some more singles. And then hopefully those tour dates happen this summer. A couple more odd shows, and then just looking forward to booking. And right now we're writing again, so that we'll see what's on the horizon in terms of more music after we do the singles. And then more podcasts, more fun content, more fun stuff on Twitter, Instagram, a little bit on Facebook, but Twitter and Instagram is where we have the most fun.
Well, thank you guys so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I will.
Now this was fun. Yeah, so did we.
You.
Thanks so much. It was great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. And if you're in New York, maybe I will see you.
Yeah.
We will. Yeah. At some point we'll come on there. JB's been trying to get the Jersey show booked for the longest time, so
we'll make it happen.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too. See you later.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.